Dreamtown by Henry Sleesar. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Reading by Greg Marguerite. Dreamtown by Henry Sleesar. The woman in the doorway looked so harmless. Who was to tell she had some rather startling interests? The woman in the doorway looked like Mom in the homier political cartoons. She was plump, apple-cheeked, white-haired. She wore a fussy, old-fashioned nightgown and was busily clutching a worn house robe around her expansive middle. She blinked at Sol Becker's rain-flattened hair and hangdog expression and said, "What is it? What do you want?" I'm sorry." Sol's voice was pained. The man in the diner said you might put me up. I had my car stolen. A hitchhiker. Going to Salinas." He was puffing. "Hitchhiker? I don't understand." She clucked at the sight of the pool of water he was creating in her foyer. "Well, come inside, for heaven's sake. You're soaking." "Thanks," Sol said gratefully. With the door firmly shut behind him, the warm interior of the little house covered him like a blanket. He shivered and let the warmth seep over him. "I'm terribly sorry. I know how late it is." He looked at his watch, but the face was too misty to make out the hour. "Must be nearly 3, the woman sniffed. "You couldn't have come at a worse time. I was just on my way to court." The words slid by him. "If I could just stay overnight until the morning, I could call some friends in San Fernando. I'm very susceptible to head colds," he added inanely. "Well, take those shoes off first," the woman grumbled. "You can undress in the parlor, if you'll keep off the rug. You won't mind using the sofa?" "No, of course not. I'd be happy to pay." "Oh, tush. Nobody's asking you to pay. This isn't a hotel. You mind if I go back upstairs? They're going to miss me at the palace." "No, of course not," Sol said. He followed her into the darkened parlor and watched as she turned the screw on a hurricane-style lamp, shedding a yellow pool of light over half a flowery sofa and doily-covered wing chair. You go up. I'll be perfectly fine." "Guess you can use a towel, though. I'll get you one. Then I'm going up. We wake pretty early in this house. Breakfast's at 7. You'll have to be up if you want any." I really can't thank you enough." "Tush," the woman said. She scurried out and returned a moment later with a thick bath towel. "Sorry I can't give you any bedding, but you'll find it nice and warm in here." She squinted at the dim face of a ship's wheel clock on the mantel and made a noise with her tongue. 3:30, she exclaimed. "I'll miss the whole execution." "The what?" "Good night, young man," Mom said firmly. She padded off, leaving Sol holding the towel. He patted his face and then scrubbed the wet tangle of brown hair. Carefully he stepped off the carpet and onto the stone floor in front of the fireplace. He removed his drenched coat and suit jacket and squeezed water out over the ashes. He stripped down to his underwear, wondering about next morning's possible embarrassment, and decided to use the damp bath towel as a blanket. The sofa was downy and comfortable. He curled up under the towel, shivered once, and closed his eyes. He was tired and very sleepy, and his customary nightly review was limited to a few detached thoughts about the wedding he was supposed to attend in Salinas that weekend, the hoodlum who had responded to his good nature by dumping him out of his own car, the slogging walk to the village, the little round woman who was hurrying off like the White Rabbit to some mysterious appointment on the upper floor. Then he went to sleep. A voice awoke him, shrill and questioning. "Are you naked?" His eyes flew open, and he pulled the towel protectively around his body and glared at the little girl with the rust-red pigtails. "Huh, mister?" she said, pushing a finger against her freckled nose. "Are you?" "No," he said angrily. "I'm not naked. Will you please go away?" "Sally!" It was Mom, appearing in the doorway of the parlor. "You leave the gentleman alone." She went off again. "Yes," Sol said. "Please let me get dressed, if you don't mind." The girl didn't move. "What time is it?" "Dunno," Sally shrugged. "I like poached eggs. They're my favorite eggs in the whole world." "That's good," Sol said desperately. "Now, why don't you be a good girl and eat your poached eggs in the kitchen?" "Ain't ready yet. You going to stay for breakfast?" I'm not going to do anything until you get out of here." She put the end of a pigtail in her mouth and sat down on the chair opposite. "I went to the palace last night. They had an execution." "Please," Sol groaned. "Be a good girl, Sally. If you let me get dressed, I'll show you how to take off your thumb." "Oh, that's an old trick. Did you ever see an execution?" "No. Did you ever see a little girl with her hide tanned?" "Huh?" "Sally!" Mom again, sterner. "You get out of there, or you know what." "Okay," the girl said blithely. "I'm going to the palace again, if I brush my teeth. Aren't you ever going to get up?" She skipped out of the room, and Sol hastily sat up and reached for his trousers. When he had dressed, the clothes still damp and unpleasant against his skin, he went out of the parlor and found the kitchen. Mom was busy at the stove. He said, "Good morning." "Breakfast in 10 minutes," she said cheerfully. "You like poached eggs?" "Sure. Do you have a telephone?" "In the hallway. Party line, so you may have to wait." He tried for 15 minutes to get through, but there was a woman on the line who was terribly upset about a cotton dress she had ordered from Sears and was telling the world about it. Finally he got his call through to Salinas, and a sleepy-voiced Fred, his old army buddy, listened somewhat indifferently to his tale of woe. "I might miss the wedding," Sol said unhappily. I'm awfully sorry." Fred didn't seem to be half as sorry as he was. When Sol hung up, he was feeling more despondent than ever. A man, tall and rangy, with a bobbing Adam's apple and a lined face, came into the hallway. "Hello?" he said inquiringly. "You the fella had the car stolen?" "Yes." The man scratched his ear. "Take you over to Sheriff Coogan after breakfast. He'll let the Stadies know about it. My name's Dawes." Sol accepted a careful handshake. "Don't get many people coming to town," Dawes said, looking at him curiously. "Ain't seen a stranger in years, but you look like the rest of us." He chuckled. Mom called out, "Breakfast." At the table Dawes asked his destination. "Wedding in Salinas," he explained. "Old army friend of mine. I picked this hitchhiker up about 2 miles from here. He seemed okay." "Never can tell," Dawes said placidly, munching egg. "Hey, Ma, that's why you were so late comin' to court last night?" "That's right, Pa." She poured the blackest coffee Sol had ever seen. "Didn't miss much, though." "What court is that?" Sol asked politely, his mouth full. "Gum," Sally said, a piece of toast sticking out from the side of her mouth. "Don't you know nothin'?" "Armagon," Dawes corrected. He looked sheepishly at the stranger. "Don't expect Mr. " He cocked an eyebrow. "What's the name?" "Becker." "Don't expect Mr. Becker knows anything about Armagon. It's just a dream, you know." He smiled apologetically. "Dream? You mean this Armagon is a place you dream about?" "Yup," Dawes said. He lifted cup to lip. "Great coffee, Ma." He leaned back with a contented sigh. "Dream about it every night. Got so used to the place I get all confused in the daytime." Mom said, "I get muddle-headed too sometimes." "You mean," Sol put his napkin in his lap, You mean you dream about the same place?" "Sure," Sally piped. "We all go there at night. I'm going to the palace again, too." "If you brush your teeth," Mom said primly. "If I brush my teeth. Boy, you should have seen the execution." "Execution," her father said. "Oh, my goodness." Mom got up hastily. "That reminds me. I gotta call poor Mrs. Brundage. It's the least I could do." "Good idea," Dawes said. "And I'll have to round up some folks and get old Brundage out of there." Sol was staring. He opened his mouth, but couldn't think of the right question to ask. Then he blurted out, "What execution?" "None of your business," the man said coldly. "You eat up, young man, if you want me to get Sheriff Coogan looking for your car." The rest of the meal went silently, except for Sally's insistence upon singing her school song between mouthfuls. When Dawes was through, he pushed back his plate and ordered Sol to get ready. Sol grabbed his topcoat and followed the man out the door. "Have to stop someplace first," Dawes said. "But we'll be picking up the sheriff on the way. Okay with you?" "Fine," Sol said uneasily. The rain had stopped, but the heavy clouds seemed reluctant to leave the skies over the small town. There was a skittish breeze blowing, and Sol Becker tightened the collar of his coat around his neck as he tried to keep up with the fast-stepping Dawes. They crossed the street diagonally and entered a